This is a special investigation by American Gulag and the Word Up Media Network. We are about to unravel a story that should terrify every law-abiding citizen of this nation. It is a story of a mother, a poet, a U.S. citizen, executed in broad daylight by a federal agent who believed he was untouchable. It is a story of a calculated, dangerous lie broadcast from the highest office in the land, the lie of absolute immunity. This is not just an analysis of policy, this is an indictment of a system. This is the story of Renee Nicole Good, January 7th, 2026. For Renee Nicole Good, it began like any other day. A mother's first duty, dropping her 6-year-old son off at school, a kiss goodbye, a wave, the simple, sacred rituals of a life built on love and care. Hours later, that life was extinguished, shot and killed by an ICE agent on the cold streets of Minneapolis. Renee was not a fugitive. She was not a threat. She was a mother of 3, a published poet, a devout Christian who spent her time on mission trips helping the less fortunate. Her youngest son is now an orphan. His grandfather's words echo in the void she left behind. There's nobody else in his life. A family shattered, a community in mourning, all because a man with a badge and a gun decided he was judge, jury, and executioner. The day after Renee's execution, Vice President J.D. Vance, a man sworn to uphold the Constitution, stood before the nation and delivered a chilling decree. Referring to the agent who pulled the trigger, he said, with a straight face, "That guy is protected by absolute immunity." Let those words sink in. Absolute immunity. A concept so alien to American jurisprudence that it sounds like a dispatch from a tin pot dictatorship. It is a license to kill. It is a declaration that federal agents are a class above the law, unbound by the very rules they are sworn to enforce. The legal community erupted in a firestorm of disbelief and condemnation. Constitutional law professors, former federal prosecutors, and defense attorneys, people from across the political spectrum, were united in their outrage. "Absolutely ridiculous," said one. "A complete fabrication," said another. A former U.S. attorney was blunt. "Officers are not entitled to absolute immunity, period, full stop." For over a century, the law has been crystal clear. Federal agents can be prosecuted for their crimes. What Vance was claiming was not a legal opinion. It was a calculated, politically motivated lie. A dangerous, deadly lie designed to create a class of state-sanctioned killers. So let's be precise. Who does have this godlike power? The list is vanishingly small. Judges when acting in their judicial capacity, prosecutors when initiating a prosecution, the president in certain official acts. It is a power granted to ensure that the gears of government can turn without fear of frivolous lawsuits. It was never, ever intended to be a shield for law enforcement. Not for local police, not for FBI agents, and certainly not for ICE agents. The very idea is a grotesque perversion of American justice, a betrayal of the principle that no one is above the law. What law enforcement does have is a controversial and powerful protection called qualified immunity. This doctrine, invented by the Supreme Court, shields officers from civil lawsuits unless they violate a clearly established right. It is already a formidable barrier to justice, a get-out-of-jail-free card for all but the most egregious misconduct. But even qualified immunity has its limits. It is not a shield from criminal charges. It is not a license to kill. It is not and has never been absolute. So where did this poisonous idea come from? It dripped down from the very top. In 2024, in the landmark case Trump versus United States, the Supreme Court, for the first time in American history, granted presidents a form of criminal immunity for their official acts. It was a decision that shattered precedent and horrified legal scholars. Now, Vance and the administration are attempting a terrifying legal alchemy to extend that presidential shield to the thousands of federal agents who serve under him. The logic is as simple as it is despotic. If the president is immune and the agents are merely following his orders, then the agents must be immune too. This isn't law. This is the blueprint for a secret police force. This is tyranny. But here's the terrifying truth. While Vance is lying about the letter of the law, he's not far from the reality on the ground. In 2022, the Supreme Court's conservative majority delivered a devastating blow to accountability in the case of Egbert versus Boole. They effectively gutted our ability to sue federal agents for constitutional violations, claiming it was a matter of national security. They closed the courthouse doors, leaving citizens with no remedy against abuse. The result? Functional, de facto, absolute immunity. A world where rights exist on paper but have no meaning in practice. And there's another, older, more insidious shield, the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution. For over a century, the federal government has used it as a weapon to stop states from prosecuting federal agents who commit crimes. We saw it in 2018 when an ICE agent shot and killed an unarmed man in Virginia. The local prosecutor, ready to bring charges, was forced to stand down, claiming he had no jurisdiction. No charges were ever filed. This is the playbook. A playbook of federal dominance and local powerlessness. And it's the exact playbook being used to protect the killer of Renee Good. Within hours of Renee's death, a federal wall of silence descended on Minneapolis. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the state's top investigative agency, was physically blocked from the crime scene. They were denied access to evidence. They were prevented from interviewing the federal agents involved. The message from Washington was brutally clear. This is our jurisdiction. The state has no power here. Your laws do not apply to us. We will investigate ourselves. This is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern of state-sanctioned violence. An investigation by The Trace revealed that from 2015 to 2021, ICE agents shot 59 people. 23 of them died. And in all of those cases, after all that bloodshed, not a single agent was indicted. Not one. This isn't a statistical anomaly. It is a policy of impunity. It is a guarantee to every agent that they can use lethal force without fear of consequence. The Department of Homeland Security has a policy written in black and white. Shooting at moving vehicles is prohibited unless the driver poses a direct, lethal threat. It's a policy born from tragedy because shooting at a car is wildly dangerous and rarely effective. Yet time and time again, it's the go-to excuse for ICE agents. They claim the driver weaponized their vehicle. It's a convenient, unfalsifiable narrative. And it's the exact excuse they are using to justify the execution of Renee Good. This culture of violence is not a secret. In 2025, a Border Patrol officer in Chicago shot a woman 5 times during a traffic stop. His text message to his friends, later revealed in court documents, is a window into the soul of this agency. I fired 5 rounds, and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys. This is not the talk of a public servant, this is the boast of a killer. This is the culture of impunity, where violence is a sport and human life is a punchline. Since the start of the second Trump administration, this culture has been supercharged. Aggressive ICE raids have surged by over 700%. 4 people have been fatally shot in the last 5 months alone. This isn't law enforcement. This is a paramilitary operation being waged in our cities against our own citizens. It is a war on the rule of law itself. And it is all sanctioned from the very top. A 2025 Executive Order number 14288 directs the Justice Department to use all of its resources to defend agents accused of misconduct. But it goes further. It contains a chilling threat to investigate and prosecute the state and local officials who dare to challenge them. It is a declaration of war on any mayor, any governor, any district attorney who would stand up for their citizens against federal overreach. And what of Renee Good? In the face of public outrage, the administration has resorted to the oldest trick in the tyrant's handbook. They have launched a vicious, posthumous smear campaign. They have branded her a domestic terrorist, a mother, a poet, a Christian. Her life, her identity, erased and replaced by a monstrous caricature designed to justify her own execution. It is a lie built on a lie. But the videos tell a different story. Local officials in Minneapolis who have seen the body camera footage say the federal narrative is a complete fabrication. They say Renee was trying to flee, not attack. The mayor of Minneapolis, after viewing the evidence, did not mince words. He called the federal claims bullshit and propaganda. The truth is on a hard drive, locked away from the American people. Vance, in his cynical defense of the agent, brought up a prior incident where the agent was injured on the job, receiving 33 stitches. He presented this as evidence of the dangers the agent faced. But this is a grotesque manipulation. If an agent is so traumatized, so psychologically scarred that they see a lethal threat in a mother fleeing in her car, then they are not fit for duty. They are a danger to the public. Their past trauma is not an excuse for murder. It is a reason for their dismissal. Let us not forget the true victims. 3 children are left without a mother. A 6-year-old boy is now an orphan. His life irrevocably broken. This is the human cost of the lie of absolute immunity. It is a cost paid in tears, in trauma, and in the stolen future of a family. Who was Renee Good? She was an award-winning poet. Her professor at the University of Minnesota remembers her as a writer of profound empathy, someone who wrote with grace and insight about people different from herself. She was a mother, a student, a voice of compassion in a world that desperately needs it. She was a devoted Christian who went on mission trips to help others. Her mother, her voice choked with grief, called her one of the kindest people I've ever known. This is the woman the United States government calls a terrorist. A woman of faith, of art, of love. Her neighbors in Minneapolis remember her as a really sweet person, a welcomed member of the community. They are devastated, they are heartbroken, they are angry, they know the truth, they know that a good woman was stolen from them. Renee was a trained legal observer, a volunteer who exercises her First Amendment right to watch and document the police. It is a vital role in a free society, a check on the power of the state, a right that is now being systematically criminalized, a right for which Renee Nicole Good paid with her life. Vance's lie is a poison injected into the bloodstream of our nation. It is a green light to every federal agent in the country. It tells them that they can act with impunity, that they are above the law, that they can kill, and the vice president himself will have their back. It is an open invitation to violence. This is not new. The legal doctrines being twisted to shield these agents, the supremacy clause, executive privilege, are over a century old. But they have never been used so brazenly, so dishonestly, to create a class of untouchable state enforcers. This is a radical, dangerous departure from American tradition. For 51 years, from 1971 to 2022, we had a tool, a flawed tool, but a tool nonetheless, to hold federal agents accountable in civil court, the Bivens Doctrine. In 2022, the Supreme Court killed it. In Egbert versus Boole, they closed the courthouse doors to victims of federal abuse, leaving them with no remedy. So let's review the fortress of impunity that protects killer cops. First, no civil lawsuits, thanks to the death of Bivens. Second, no state prosecution, thanks to the Supremacy Clause shield. And third, no federal prosecution, thanks to a Department of Justice that refuses to police its own. This is the trifecta of impunity. This is functional, absolute immunity. And what of internal oversight? The Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General? It is a farce, a rubber stamp, a system where agents investigate themselves and, with shocking predictability, find no wrongdoing. It is a system designed to protect the institution, not the public. As difficult as it is to hold local police accountable, it is virtually impossible to hold federal agents accountable. They operate in a league of their own, a shadow army shielded from the law, from the states, and from the citizens they are supposed to serve. Renee Good was killed less than a mile from where George Floyd was murdered. The world saw that video, and a Minneapolis police officer was convicted of murder. But the agent who killed Renee will likely never even be charged. The difference? One was a local cop, subject to local law. The other, a federal agent, a soldier in a federal army that answers to no one. The effect on communities is palpable. Children are now afraid to go to school. Families are afraid to leave their homes. Immigrant communities, already living in fear, are driven further into the shadows. This is the climate of terror created by a government that has unleashed its agents on its own people. Let us be clear. When the state can kill its citizens with impunity, when it can lie about its actions and silence its critics, we are no longer a democracy. We are on a dark road to authoritarianism. This is how it begins, with a lie, with a bullet, with a mother's stolen life. Vance's words will have consequences. More violence, more death, more families torn apart. The blood of the next victim will be on his hands, just as Renee's is now. Let's be crystal clear. Absolute immunity means an agent could execute a citizen on live television in front of the world and face no legal consequences. That is the world J.D. Vance is building, a world where the law is a weapon for the powerful and a cage for the weak. Our first demand is simple. Release the tapes. If the official story is true, if Renee was a threat, then show us. The refusal to show the American people what happened is an admission of guilt. We demand the immediate, unedited release of all body camera and dashcam footage now. Our second demand is for Congress act. You have the power to fix this. You must pass legislation to restore the right to sue federal agents for their crimes. You must tear down the shields of impunity that have made a mockery of our justice system. Our third demand is for the Department of Justice. Do your job. You have the power to convene a federal grand jury. You can investigate. You can indict. You can prosecute. We demand the appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate the killing of Renee Nicole Good. We demand an indictment for murder. Our fourth demand is for the states. Resist. Do not bow to federal tyranny. Pass laws to hold federal agents accountable for crimes committed in your jurisdictions. Fight back against federal overreach. Protect your citizens. We will not let Renee Nicole Good be forgotten. We will not let her become another nameless statistic in the long, bloody history of state violence. Her name must be a rallying cry, a promise that we will fight for justice, for accountability, for the soul of this nation. This is not a spectator sport. Your freedom is on the line. Demand that your representatives in Congress act. Flood the phone lines of the Department of Justice. Share this story. Use your voice. Say her name. Renee Nicole Good. Like, share, and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. Presented by Word Up Media Network.